There are a lot of modes in Professional Baseball Spirits, but the mode that I think is the most interesting is Hakkyu No Kiseki, or Miracle of the White Ball, or the High School mode. Taking the role of a baseball director at a high school, it's your job to train a bunch of high school baseball players with the aim of victory at the Koshien. When you select the mode, you're going to notice 4 buttons on the main menu. The first button is for starting a new game. The second button is for continuing a previously saved game. The third button shows you the Japan high school map. As you play and compete against more schools, this map will fill out. Finally, the last button is the professional player book. As you play through the game and recruit more players, some of the high schoolers will take their playing style off professional players. When that happens, this player book will fill out, letting you know which region these players have come from. When you start a new game, the first thing you'll have to do is go through the opening ceremony, and once you've clicked all through that, you're then going to be greeted with the initial manager data screen. Here is where you'll set all the data for your own character. The layout of this screen follows most of the other edit player screens. At the top you can input your last name. Next you can input your first name. Next you can set a nickname. Underneath that you can change the order in which the names appear, whether you want last name first name or first name last name. Next you can choose how you'd like your name to be displayed. The bottom 2 options will be greyed out, they're for the uniform name and the uniform number, and as you're not a player you don't need to enter them. Once you're happy with all of that, the next screen you're going to come to is how the commentators and the stadium will pronounce your name. I've gone over this in other videos, so either check out the Spirits video or click the card in the top right corner. The next screen is just for setting your birthday. The next screen you'll see is the region map. Here you can select which region you'd like to compete in and then choose your prefecture to allow you to choose where you want your high school to be. When selecting a prefecture, you'll see a star level in the bottom left corner. This indicates the size of the population there. Next to that you'll see some red text. This will let you know roughly how many schools you're competing against, so it might say something like small amount, which means that there won't be many schools in the prefecture, all the way up to very large, which means you might be competing against 50 to 100 other schools. The best way of thinking about this is like a difficulty mode. If you select a region with less schools in it, then in theory it should be easier to get into tournaments. If you select a region with more schools in it, then it's going to be harder to try and get into a tournament. Once you've chosen your preferred prefecture, then it's time to name your school. You can also set the commentator and stadium voices as well. Next it will ask you to just set a 1-letter abbreviation for your school. After setting those, you'll be on a screen that looks like the initial manager settings, but there is a few extra buttons. If you're not happy with any of the previous data you've inputted for your manager or for your high school, then you can choose any of the top 5 buttons. The 6th button actually allows you to change your crest, your flag and your emblem. This is the same layout if you were going to make an edit team back on the main menu. At the top you have pre-made flag templates. The grayed out button is the logo design, which you can't change in high school mode. Underneath that is choosing what crest you'd like to use. Beneath that you can change what initial is displayed and how the font looks. Underneath that you can change all of the colour settings. Next is changing the background colour, and underneath that is changing the background design, where you can actually add up to 7 extra layers of designs on there. There's a lot you can do here, so if you do want a bit more of an in-depth look, then I highly recommend looking at my edit team video. Back on the main screen, underneath the crest, flag and emblem settings, you can change your uniform. Again, much like the flag settings, I've gone over uniform settings in the edit team video. Finally, the last button on the main screen is to change your school song. Here you've got the choice of choosing between 4 different songs that will play in the background while you're playing matches. For all of these settings, none of it is set in stone, so if there is something later you do want to change, you do have the ability to do so. But if you are happy with everything, you can just go ahead and hit OK. Once you've either read or skipped all the text that comes on screen, the first thing you're going to see is all of your new recruits. These will be 6 brand new players that will be joining your team on top of your already pre-established players. You can actually get some really high level players right off the bat, but if you don't get them, the only way you can do this is by save scumming, and that does mean you're going to have to go through the whole edit process again. But if you are happy with your players, you'll be brought to another screen. Here you can rename your players, but you can also change their appearance as well. The second button down allows you to rename any of the players. A good tip to do is to rename the players what their actual position is. While there are symbols to let you know where they play, this way it's a lot easier to know which players they are. The button underneath allows you to change their appearance if you're not happy with their default look. If you do wish to change some of their looks, then you can always watch my Spirits video. Here I go over how to make a custom character. Once you're happy and everything's set, then you'll finally be brought to the main screen of the game. I'll go over what the rest of this screen looks like in a second, but the first thing you'll be asked to do is to press the L1 button to bring up your phone menu. As you can see on screen, pressing L1 brings up a lot of different menu options. The first button is your team info. This allows you to check out things like your overall strength, the amount of players you've got per year per position, your school's rank and their reputation, along with their current training program. The next tab shows you all your records. Here you'll find things like your win-loss percentages, how well you've done in previous tournaments, and how many players have graduated from your school. The final tab shows you your recent record. At the moment it will be empty because you've not played any games, but as you play some, this will fill out showing you how the results were. The next button is for player info. Here you're able to check on all the stats for every player in your team, but you can also set their training programs. By setting a specific training program, you're able to increase specific stats. The 4 tabs along the top relate to showing everyone, just your pitchers, your fielders, and then an easy training instructions. Selecting any player will bring up a more detailed screen, which will show you how they're progressing in each stat. Bear in mind, depending on the position of the players, some players won't be able to learn certain stats. For example, fielders learning any type of pitching. If you just want to leave them as they are, then you don't have to press any other buttons, but if you do wish to change their training program, then you can just click the button on the right. Here you can choose a different training program. There's too many to go over in this video, but if you do choose one, you're going to see it highlight the stat on the screen. This way you can work out what it is it's going to try and train. So if you've got a pitcher and you want to increase their stamina, then just make sure you choose a training option that highlights the stamina box. You can make pitchers learn new pitches, and you can do that by making them train on them. Once the bar is filled, they'll be able to use them, however they will be at the lowest level. So if you are looking at doing this, it's usually best to do this on first years as you'll have more time to develop them. Most of the stats on screen are pretty easy to understand, but there are a few in the bottom left corner which require more explanation. These show what type of trajectory the ball will have when a player hits the ball. The main thing you want to look out for is if you've got players with strong power, you don't want them hitting grounders or low trajectory balls. The same goes with players with low power, you don't want them trying to hit massive high arcing balls because they'll just get easily caught. You can set everything per player, but if you want to do it a little bit easier, then you can always choose the last tab. Here the players are set by their position, so you can just set an overall training program you want them to follow. While this is probably easier for a native speaker, it does mean you can't actually see which stats are changing, so you might find it easier to do it on the previous screen. The next button on the phone menu is the manager's info. This will show you all the special abilities that your manager is able to teach to players, along with your current record. There are too many to go over here, so again this will be something in another video. The next button is the items screen. Here you'll see all the items you've obtained whether through gifts, daily login bonuses, or purchases made in the game. There's a whole host of items ranging from increasing your ground level on the field to also increasing the amount of experience points you'll get. There's too many items to explain, but there is a guide that's been made by Poppo. I'll leave a link in the description to the guide, but they're not only translating just the items but all the special abilities as well, so definitely check it out. After items you have the set team button. The top button allows you to select your first team and their order. Here you can manually select which players you'd like to be in which position. You can also use the buttons at the top to let the computer automatically make the best teams for you depending on the criteria. The first button is for setting it yourself. Next, the computer will try and make the most reliable team. The next button will make a team made of upperclassmen. The button after that will make a team with underclassmen, and the final button resets everything. The other button in team setting is for changing your team's policy. This sets how the team will play when the computer's in control of them. The top option is for selecting which players to use, but if you've already edited it on the previous screen, you don't have to worry. The next 4 buttons go base stealing, base running, bunting, and squeeze play. Here you can set them to either be normal, aggressive, or passive. The next button allows you to change any of the school settings if you weren't happy with them previously. There are 3 extra buttons at the bottom though. First is the cheer song settings. Here you can change all the cheer songs like you could do in any of the other mode. If you want to learn how to make your own cheer songs or edit them, then you can always watch my previous video on it. Underneath that you have the ability of changing any of the players' names and also changing how the commentators in the stadium pronounce their voice. Finally, the last button is for changing any of the players' appearances. The Rival Schools button allows you to see a list of schools that you've competed against. At the start this will be completely empty, but again as you play against more and more teams, this will slowly fill out, allowing you to see their stats. The Town Info button allows you to see which places you can go to and how developed they are. At the start you'll only see the shop, but as you play more and gain a better reputation, more areas will be unlocked. The player album will fill out as players graduate. Not only can you see their final records, but you're able to also see where their career destination went. So if you've had a player that was drafted, you'll be able to see which team they went to. The schedule just allows you to see the calendar. Here you can see upcoming events, but if there is a tournament on, you can also see the current bracket. Finally, the settings button allows you to change everything that isn't to do with your school. At the top you have your button for saving. Next you have the Tactical Match information screen. This will let you know how games will play out if this is how you've chosen to play a match. The same goes for the Team Digest information screen. Next is the field play settings. These are the same settings you can find in Exhibition or Star Player mode. so if you only want to do batting, you can turn off all the chances it will make you play in defense. The top option is for batting. You can choose between either playing every single at bat or the game auto-progressing. Next is base running. You can choose to be in control whenever your player is on base. You can choose to be in control of your player when there's only a chance to win. You can choose to be in control when there's a stealing opportunity, or you can have it auto-progress. For fielder defense, you can set it so you're in control in every play. You can be in control but with a count skip. You can be in control but it will also auto-progress. Or you can just set it to auto-progress by itself. Pitching and pitching defense is like fielder defense. You can either pitch every at bat but with a count skip, automatically pitch some of the bats that come up, or just auto-progress. Pitch selection just allows you to either select the pitches or let the catchers select them. And finally, for the next batter, you can either watch each at bat or let the game auto-progress. The last three options are changing the background music if you wish to do so, bringing up the help guide which is all in Japanese, and quitting the game. With all of those explained, you can now actually play the game. The game flows by selecting cards from the drawn selection on the bottom based on what types of training you want the team to do for that week. The cards refill from the right hand side, and the very last card on the left hand side that isn't used will be discarded at the end of the turn. The main training cards will increase your pitching, your catching, your throwing, your power, your contact, and all the other stats that your players can learn. There are also unique cards as well, such as scouting, learning special abilities, resting, and others. Underneath the cards you'll also see a bar which shows you how much stamina that card would use if it's selected. You can see how much stamina you have in the top right corner. You start the game with 7 stamina for the week, and you can increase it by increasing your reputation. You'll regain some stamina at the start of each week, but there are also cards that will get you some back as well. There might also be some cards that have one of 4 symbols on them. A music note means that a good event will happen once all the training is complete. The skull means a bad event will happen. If there's an up arrow, it means that training is going to get boosted and your players will get more experience points. And if there's the green stars, then it means you'll get some stamina recovery. If you select 2 or more of the same training in a row, you'll also get a boost as well to its effect, which is also indicated by the cards pulsing yellow. The weather can also determine how much experience your players will get. If it's raining or snowing, then your players will earn less training points and can also lead to bad effects happening. You can negate the weather effects by using items such as the bucket for rain or a snow shovel if it's snowing. You can also increase your ground level by using different soils. This will also help boost your training points. Regardless of which cards you choose for training, your players are always going to do their own training afterwards as well. You also want to keep an eye out for using the unique cards. One of the important ones is the special ability card. This will give you the chance to teach one of your players a new special ability. However, it is random which 3 players you get to choose from. The abilities that can be learned are based on your own manager abilities, but you can learn more by reading books or buying them from the shop. The more stars the ability has, the harder it is for the player to learn it, so there's no guarantee that they'll actually succeed. There are town cards in brown, such as Yorazura, that will allow you to go shopping for more items. More of them will become available as you progress and get a better reputation, but you can also increase their level by visiting them often and spending points you earn from games. The orange card allows you to watch a game, which will boost the mood of the players and increase their training of any cards after it. The purple rescheduled card will redraw all the cards that you have. You also have a better chance of getting stronger cards. The blue rest card allows your players to take a rest. Training players without letting them rest will eventually make their mood go down. The purple manager card will lead to an event. Most of the time this will end up with benefits for the team, such as increased mood or increased training, but you can also get items as well. The blue study card allows your players to increase their academic abilities. The gold envelope card allows you to request a practice game against another school. Finally is the scouting card, which you'll usually see near the end of the season. I'll explain scouting in further detail later on. From time to time, different events will just happen naturally. For example, you might be offered a practice game from another school. You can either choose to take part in these or you can decline them, but it is a good way of getting some experience points in. When it comes to actually playing a match, you have 6 different options. Choosing Tactical Match allows you to watch the game and also issue commands as the game plays out. Team Play allows you to control the whole team based on the team digest settings set before. Field Play allows you to control just a single player on the team based on the settings set before as well. If you don't want to play, then you can either select Watch, which will just allow you to watch the whole game, Auto, which just lets you watch the game but only from the scoreboard, and Skip, which will just take you straight to the results. If you choose Tactical Match, then you will be brought to a new screen. Here you can either just go straight into the game, change your team order again if you're not happy with it, look at the tactical settings of the game, and also change some match settings. The only things you can actually change in the match settings though is whether replays are on, whether you want the defensive camera to zoom in, and if you want the base running window to be on or off. Once you're in the game, you're going to see another bunch of cards. The idea is to choose a command based on the cards below that you want your players to try and play out. The higher the number on the card from 1 to 5, the easier it is to succeed. The higher the trust level of the player, the easier it is to get a higher number on these cards. You can increase your players' trust and reliability by using them in many matches. You can also send messages during innings and also use unique tactical cards which will give you advantageous effects. The types of cards you see will be depending on whether you're pitching or batting. For pitching, there's the manager card, which allows you to just trust in your players to do what they can do. You can pitch to the outside, the inside, low or high. You can tell them to vary their ball speeds, tell them to focus on strikes, pitch close to the edge of the zone, look out for hard hits like line drives, look out for base stealing and base runners, or to defend home plate if you've got a runner on third. For batting, again, you'll see the manager card to trust your players. You can either then tell them to focus on contact, focus on a hard hit, focus on hitting opposite field, tell them to try and pull their hit, try and focus on a hard grounder, call for a hit and run, call for a bunt, call to steal a base, tell them to wait and don't swing, try and hit for a sacrifice fly, call for a squeeze play, and call for a bunt and run. There are also some unique cards as well. For example, there's the Devil card, which makes your opponents more likely to make errors for one inning. There's a Megaphone, which can improve all the condition of all your players for one inning. There's the Monster card, which will give one player monster-like abilities for one inning. There's a 4-leaf Clover that may give you some special abilities for one at-bat. A Heart, which will shake up the opponents and lower their stats. And a Fan, which can increase the mood of all your players to try and hit consecutively for an inning. Depending on the score and how the game plays out will determine how many times you get to make commands. You have the ability of calling for a timeout, which brings up a whole bunch of other options. If you're pitching, then on the left hand side underneath resume, you'll be able to call for a relief pitcher, but you'll also be able to make substitutions and defensive changes. If you're batting, then you can call for a pinch hitter or you can call for a pinch runner. You also have the ability of seeing the current batter's data and the current pitcher's data. If you're pitching and you don't want to face the batter, then you can also use the intentional walk button. The team analysis button will just bring up a graph that looks the same as you would find in the rival school's phone menu. And at the bottom you have the ability of sending out a messenger. Using a messenger allows you to send out a player that can boost your other players. There's a large list of effects, but all of them are advantageous. Things like increasing your pitcher's stamina to increasing your hitter's power and contact. There's a load that can be selected here. Team play allows you to play as the whole team. You can select between 3 difficulties, which will determine the amount of experience you'll get from playing and how strong the computer is. You'll always play the whole of the first inning, whether it's pitching or batting, but after that it will then be determined based on the current score. While you don't have full control like you would do in tactical play to give out commands, you can still ask for a pinch hitter, pinch runner, and send out messengers. Field play is like playing in star player mode. You'll choose one player to play the whole game as. How often you bat, run, field, and pitch will be determined by the settings set in the phone menu. Whether you win or lose, you'll be brought to the results screen after the game. Here you'll be able to see if any of your players gained any additional experience points from the match. So throughout the year you'll be aiming to keep training your players and compete in tournaments. There's a number of regional and national tournaments to compete in, such as the Spring and Summer Koshien. When you get to Summer Koshien, regardless of how well you've done, all your third year students will retire, leaving you with only your first and your second years. If you're lucky, you'll then start seeing the scout cards. Depending on your reputation, you'll be able to scout outside your own prefecture. Here you can find all different types of players for each position, which tend to be stronger than the regular players that will just join your school near the start of the new year. The colours of each region you can scout shows what the area is best in. A red area shows they're best for pitchers. A green area shows they're best for batters. Yellow has good defence players and base runners. Purple means there's lots of players with special abilities. And white means there's not really anything special. You can also see how many players there are in each position in the bottom left corner when you hover over an area. Once you're happy with an area and you want to scout in it, then it will display all the possible players you can attempt to acquire. Much like special abilities, scouting a player is not guaranteed to be successful. The higher the player's abilities and stars, the more difficult it is to succeed in scouting. A higher reputation will increase the success rate for scouting, the number of regions available, and the amount of times and players you can scout in a year. Depending on your reputation as well, you'll also get more information on each players, such as how good their batting is or what tournaments they've participated in. You might also see some players with a gold label on the side. This indicates there is a professional player they base their style on. Because of this, it means you can find high school versions of professional players like Otami, Yamamoto and others if you scout from the region they're from. Once you've chosen a player you wish to scout, then you'll have to wait until April, which is when your new recruits will come to know whether you succeeded or not. At the end of the year, players will graduate. If any of your players manage to get drafted early in the year, then when they graduate, you'll get one final chance to edit their settings. You can change their name and appearance again, but you can actually also change the team that they were drafted into. You can save them then like a created character and use them in modes like Star Player or put them into an edit team. You're also able to export the whole team after the summer tournament ends. So that's just a basic overview of nearly everything in the high school mode. There's a lot of text and dialogue options that I haven't gone over, mainly because they're all completely random. There are ones at the start of the game that are always the same, but to be honest they're just things like setting which colour megaphone you'd like. I can do more in-depth videos as required, but for the minute I just wanted to get the main basic gameplay down for everyone. As I said before, people like Poppo are making a translated guide for all the items and special abilities, which is going to be super helpful when complete. But there's already a lot of people already playing this game, so if one of your favourite streamers is already trying it out, then maybe give it a watch to get a grasp on how the whole game works. You can have multiple saves, so there's nothing wrong with just starting a game up, trying a load of things out and seeing how it goes. If you find yourself getting comfortable with the mode, then you can either just continue or just restart. I'm not an expert when it comes to this mode or any of the modes in the game, but I have played it long enough to get a good understanding. So if you do have further questions, then either drop me a comment or find me on Twitter and send me a DM. If you found this guide useful, then you can always consider sending me a tip on Ko-Fi. I'm looking to get some better capture equipment so I can record gameplay and stream in better quality for everyone. But I hope by watching this gives you a good start in being able to start this mode. Thanks for watching. Again, if you've got any questions, just drop a comment below. Enjoy the game and I'll catch you on the next one.